I'm just going to take just a quick second to answer a question I was talking to William about, which was, so how does a nice Jewish boy from Cleveland end up following Yeshua? And it's a really long story, and you don't want to hear it all, so I'll just kind of abbreviate it quite a bit. I am Jewish, and I love the Lord with all my heart. He's the most important thing in my life. But I did not grow up with him. And in the mainstream Jewish community, let's just say he's not particularly thought highly of. And my grandfather came from Eastern Europe with my dad when he was in his teens, and if he had come a few years later, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you because the whole family got wiped out in the Holocaust. And my grandfather was an Orthodox Jew, and so when we would go to temple, which was pretty infrequently because my dad had rebelled and didn't want anything to do with Orthodox Judaism, but when we went to an Orthodox temple, the ladies sat in one area, the men sat somewhere else. The entire service was in Hebrew, which was a language I didn't know, and it just felt so alien and cold. It didn't seem like it had any real meaning, certainly for me. And around that time, I had had a secret, I guess, crush on Yeshua. I was fascinated with him, and like so many of us, saw the Jesus of Nazareth movies, and I remember thinking to myself, what a wonderful human being. I just wish he was somebody that I could have something to do with, but gosh, I'm Jewish, so what does that have to do with me? And I remember thinking that if Jewish people knew that I was interested in somebody else's God, you know, it wouldn't have gone over very well. It would have been a betrayal to them. And I remember thinking that if Christians knew that I was interested in Jesus, they would think I was Meshuggah because, gee, I'm Jewish. What do I have to do with Jesus? And around that time, I had a couple things happen. I had a very dear friend who is watching tonight, and I want to thank Sonia, who talked to me a lot about the Lord and told me that it was okay to be Jewish and follow him. And I had a very close friend of mine died in a drowning accident, and my dad had a business close. A bunch of stuff happened all at once. And when I went to my friend's funeral who had just died, it was at a Catholic church, and there were all these people went up for a communion. And I'm sitting there squirming. I'm wearing a yarmulke, right? And I remember thinking to myself, you know, you better go up now because you may never have this chance again. So here's this Jewish guy at the back of a line wearing a yarmulke going, and so I finally get up to the front, and the priest looks at me, and I said, because I didn't want to do anything wrong or deceitful, so I said, Father, I'm really sorry. I didn't say that, but Father, I love Jesus as much as anybody in this room, and I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or not, but here I am. And it's funny now, it wasn't funny then, and the priest had this really odd look on his face and paused for what seemed to be forever. And he finally said to me in a whisper, he bends over and whispers to me, okay, I'll do it, but it doesn't count. Anyway, so shortly after that, my dear friend invited me to this concert by some crazy Jewish singer guy by the name of Marty Goetz. And this was probably about 1995, which tells you how long Marty's been ministering. And I went to this concert, and I was just completely dumbfounded because there were a room full of people. Some were Jewish and wearing yarmulkes, some were Gentile believers, but they all loved the Lord. And I had thought that I was the only one. And shortly after that, I got invited to a sister congregation to Sar Shalom, Tikvat Yisrael in Cleveland, and I've been there 35 years. I don't know how that's possible since I'm 50, but no, I'm just kidding. But I've been there for a long time, and I just want to say, especially to people who are watching this video, that if you are Jewish and you are interested in the Lord, it is the most Jewish thing that you can do to follow the one who came as the King of Israel. And so and likewise, if you are a Gentile believer, it's absolutely okay to have an interest in following the Lord from a Jewish perspective, because I'll tell you a little surprise, which you all know, he was Jewish. And so it's to fulfill your faith, to understand the feast and the holidays and why he would spend most of his life at a temple, and why in the last night of his life he would spend time with at a Passover Seder. So I just hope that, like me, you have an encounter with a risen Lord.